Welcome to the Pasho Perspective, a place where I share my perspective on everything in the space between life and death. I am your host, Pasho. Well, my Pachos Chachos, first of all, let me apologize for the long delay. The family had been sick. We went on a brief mid-year vacation to enjoy Orlando when it's not crazy. I strongly suggest you do the same thing. Last week of September, first week in October, 7% capacity at Busch Gardens and Legoland. I'm telling you. I know there's school, but hey, you only live once. It was amazing. I never waited in line for more than a minute. But anyway, after that, all my children got sick with fevers. My wife was sick. I was a little under the weather over the weekend, but I am fine now. Again, not to, make any excuses or anything. I mean, I guess could have recorded, but you know how it is. Being a father of 3, my family is my number one priority, and I needed to make sure that they were okay, that my wife, if she needed anything, I was available to help her, and, this takes time off of that stuff, so just want to apologize, and, hopefully it won't happen again, God willing. So today, we have to talk about it. It happened. Israel is at war. Terrible things happened from Hamas, and I wasn't sure if I was going to say anything about it, but I have to, because what happened is a monstrosity. And I mean, if you could even believe it, the response afterwards has been worse, especially from people of my own country who share the same flag, the same culture, the same history. To celebrate such a sad and disgusting thing is really heartbreaking for me. And so to do this episode, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to be using some cards instead of just shooting from the hip like I normally do when we have our conversations, because I want to make sure that I hit some points that I feel are very important and worth mentioning. So first of all, listening to many people speak, I have come to find out that there is a saying in Islamic countries that goes as follows. On Saturday, we kill the Jews. On Sunday, we kill the Christians. Or with greater tact, first the Saturday people, then the Sunday people. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds awful, and it sounds incredibly racist and anti-Semitic and anti-Christian, of which, of course, you know that I am. And I'm so surprised that people here in this country don't recognize that once Israel has been taken care of, let's say, and eliminated, I guess, from the face of the earth, because it seems like that's what most Islamist leaders want, and most jihadists also agree, then we're next. We're the next ones on the chopping block. And I think I have some evidence to support that, which again, I'll put in the link. But it's really saddening to know that that's something that's being actually taught in schools in Muslim countries near the Middle East. To promulgate that kind of discrimination against people who worship. I'm a Catholic, and as much as I may not agree with other religions, I respect them. I value the commonalities in a Venn diagram that, Vice President Kamala Harris would be so excited about. There's a lot of things in the middle where we intersect. Like the golden rule of treat others how you want to be treated. And to hear that there is a culture out there who, without my doing anything against them to harm them, threatens my life just because of my very existence, because we disagree in the God that we worship, in the book that we read, in the culture that we have established. I've never had any issue with another culture. I mean, when they commit crimes, I call them out on their crimes, but I don't hate a people. I don't hate a history of a culture. I mean, if anything, I respect it because it's brought us to this point. So I'm going to use another quote that I found while searching the internet. And it says, in Islam, you have to die for Allah. The God I worship died for me. And I've heard also the expression that the Jews value life where Muslims value death. And that's why they don't fear it. And that's why they could do things like suicide bombers, because I guess according to their faith, you get 72 virgins if you die in the name of Allah. Where my faith and culture is a faith and culture of peace, of forgiveness and mercy. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I fail all the time in giving these gifts, but I know that those are the laws that I need to abide by, and I try as hard as I can. It's just, you know how it is out there. People make it very difficult. But that's no excuse, but it's real at least. So I was scrolling through the media and I found this one segment on Rumble at Fox News Channel where a Palestinian American protester was being interviewed, and she was cheering on the deeds of Hamas. And at the end, she gives the whole game away. And the guy asks her, do you think the United States is at fault? And she says, yes, the United States should be next, assuming that Israel is destroyed, because she said the United States, without the United States, there was no Israel. And so apparently our culture deserves to pay for that because we gave back the land to the people who had owned it for years until several empires, including Alexander the Great, the Romans, the Ottomans, had all taken the Holy Land from them. And so after World War II and the world turned their back on the Jews and out of good conscience decided to give them their land back so that they would have their own country with their own military so that they could protect themselves instead of being handed over like lambs to the slaughter in Germany, in Poland, in France, in England. Not Belgium, though. Belgium, you're cool. I can't believe what I'm hearing with my own ears from the lips of Americans, people who I live amongst, who share the world with my children, believe in this animosity. I mean, the journalist even asked her, are you American? And she said, yeah. And she's okay with the destruction of our country, which, explains a lot about what Joe Biden is doing, about what the squad is doing, allowing crime to run rampant, to allow statues and history to be erased or rewritten. Because the goal is the destruction of our country, because we allow freedoms that other countries do not agree with, because we stand for something unique. And our history is much shorter, but comes from rebellious, intelligent, courageous men, our forefathers. And they have never forgiven us for that. So from there, I want to talk about Joe Biden and how absolutely useless that man is in the White House. There was a segment on the Daily Caller titled, "The U.S. Conducts Prisoner Swaps. Hamas official cites Biden's Iran deal as rationale for taking hostages." And so as I had predicted, giving $6 billion with a B dollars to Iran in exchange for 5 Americans, although I am grateful, I told you it would set a bad precedence. Because now other countries are indeed incentivized to kidnap Americans, knowing that the feckless houseplant commander-in-chief of our military will just print more money, raise inflation in our country, screw the American taxpayer, and give them money. And so why wouldn't they? I mean, it's disappointing already that I think the last number that I was exposed to is 24 Americans have been killed in Israel by Hamas, and I doubt in any kind way. The things that they have done are really unspeakable. Decapitating babies. I mean, I'm not going to condone the actions of some fascist psychos like the Nazis, but at least the Nazis didn't decapitate babies. They may have burned them alive, so in that they have something in common with Hamas. They didn't rape the women, or at least they gave them the decency of being executed on day one if they wouldn't leave their children, if they were too old or too young. But not Hamas. I saw a video of a woman being dragged into the back of an SUV, and you can see the blood stains on the front and back of her pants. You know that she had been sexually abused in every orifice, because that degrades her more, and that's the point. That's why they're doing it. Because they don't see Israeli people or Jewish people as human beings worthy of dignity. They have, like animals, raped these women, sodomized these women, and they made videos of them and are proudly posting them on social media. At least, like Ben Shapiro would say, at least the Nazis had the decency of trying to keep it a secret, although they were proud of their production line of death that they videotaped and pretty much recorded everything that they did. Also kept track of numbers of executions on a per diem, per month, per year. Exacting. And so what has been the response of my patriots here in our country? What has been the response of the world? I once thought anti-Semitism was dead. Could you believe it? In my class, I used to teach Elie Wiesel's La Nuit, Night, which won a Nobel Prize for Peace. It's about a man's experience in the concentration camps. And it's told very objectively. It's not charged with loaded language. It doesn't point fingers or make accusations, but simply tells things as they were. I guess that's what happens when you take a 10-year vow of silence before you write. You have a lot of time to think about what you have to say and how you're going to say it without losing your reader, without having the critics pointing their fingers, calling you an anti-this or anti-that. And I thought we had come to a point where I could teach other stories than that memoir, because I thought there was no way in our country that we were ever going to support the killing of Jews. I would never have imagined it. As a Catholic, I mean, my father was Jewish his whole life, all the way into his death. His church wasn't formed until his resurrection. Most of his disciples and the foundational blocks of my faith were Jews. They are the Old Testament. We are the New Testament. But it's the same story of the same God. And our country's constitutions are founded on those Christian Judeo values. I never in my wildest dreams as a young man would have thought that there would be so many people celebrating on the streets, on American streets no less, the death of over 1,300 Jews. which in their small country, in relation to ours, would be the equivalent of 50,000 people. 9/11 was only around 14,000. So imagine 50,000. And what was the immediate response from the squad in Congress after they butchered people at a music festival? Kibbutzes that had nothing but children and babies, many of whom they've kidnapped, and you know what happened to them. Same fate as the women already mentioned. They said, don't fight back, don't retaliate. How could you say such a thing? If someone came into your house and slit the throats of your 3 children, murdered your spouse because of their faith, would you really tell a man to not go out and seek revenge? What if they videotaped it and posted on social media for millions of people to see? No, it's not right, but they will seek revenge. It's natural. How could you allow it to happen? I know my father says turn the other cheek, but to turn the other cheek means annihilation for your people. Because like Ben Shapiro says all the time, and I feel that it is true, what would happen if Hamas didn't attack? If they didn't pursue the murder and rape of Jewish civilians? There would be peace. Because Israel wasn't looking for a war. Doesn't want a war now. There would be peace. There would be electricity. There would be water. There would be all the things that people complain about, but it's war, and all is fair in love and war. You don't feed the hand that murders your child. You don't give water to the man who sodomized your wife. You don't do that during times of war. If Hamas and the people of Gaza, who voted Hamas as their governmental entity, so they were aligned with their goals too, the annihilation of the Israeli people and of Jewish people. If there are casualties, those casualties are on the people of Gaza, on the people who voted Hamas to be the ones in charge. The UN and the United States have sent billions of dollars to the Gaza Strip, and instead of developing the land with water, infrastructure, with a power grid, decent homes, maybe even a military, they could have changed it into something really incredible with all of the billions of dollars that they have received in help. But they are so hell-bent in annihilation. So the second part of the question then is, what would happen if Israel stopped fighting today? And the answer to that is not peace. The answer to that is annihilation. They have always wanted to and continue to want to erase the Jewish people from the face of the earth for reasons I can't understand. Is it jealousy? Because they're the chosen, God's chosen people? I'm a Catholic. I don't get to call myself chosen, although I am a child of God. And the Lord has made a covenant for my soul, of which I'm happy to oblige. But I'm not chosen. And even though I'm not chosen, I seek no ill will against my Jewish brethren. So why the hate? Why the animosity? Is it really for land? So a few more examples of how the world responded. There was a anti-Israel protest on the steps of the Sydney Opera House in Australia. And if you follow the link that I put below, you will hear thousands upon thousands of Palestinian refugees in Australia chanting, "Gas the Jews." Are they the baddies then? Is it safe enough to say that people who use the same terminology as Hitler, is it safe to say that they are the bad guys? Because I don't see any heroes in any movies or stories that I've watched or read where the good guys say such things like that. There was a Young America's Foundation video clip of Dave Horowitz exposing a Hamas sympathizer for what she really is. At the end, he says, "Hamas wants me and my people killed, murdered." Do you condemn that, or are you for it? And at the end, she admits the truth. Her anti-Semitist, racist ways, she says, "I'm for it." Because the people of Gaza and those who support it, the Palestinians, they don't want peace. They're not there for land. They want the extinction of Israel. And one last example, saw this on TikTok. It was posted by David Harris, of a bunch of Americans, Palestinian Americans in our country, showing to the camera the video of the dead babies who were burned alive, their charred bodies on the floor, and he's laughing, flicking off the camera. That's in America. Remember America with the super wide open southern border, where millions upon millions of illegal border jumping criminals came into our country? Remember how I pointed out that they were single military-aged men? Well, they're here now. So let me just remind you, it took 19 extremists to enact September 11th. We have over 4 million criminal border jumpers in our country that we don't know where they're from. We don't know what their intentions are. And I am afraid, my Pachos Chachos, that only bad things will be coming of this. It's bad enough to see how Harvard, supposed best school in our country, supports Hamas. That's how much of this dirty money from these terrorist organizations have been able to supplant themselves into our own culture. Our colleges are teaching our children to hate this country. Jerusalem is a Middle Eastern USA 2.0. It's funny that the talking point of the left is to call Israel an apartheid state, and yet Israel allows people from outside of their culture, outside of their faith, to hold public governmental positions of power, the Knesset. And if you look at the Muslim countries, the several countries around Israel where once Jews used to live, there are 0 Jews. I think Egypt, in the capital, they have literally 5 Jews. And one of them just died at the age of 97 or something. Jews used to inhabit Egypt, and they were forced out. See, that's more like an apartheid to me. Israel allows other people to join their culture because, like us, they want to be fair. And so if people hate our country, which I'm sure they're going to start calling us an apartheid too, if they haven't already, then it's natural that they're going to hate them too. And so just remember, when the Saturday people are gone, the United States, the Sunday people, based on Sunday people values, with a Sunday people valued constitution, we're next. I really hope we wake up as a society. I really hope we finish building that wall. I hope we deport all of these scumbags who are in support of a terrorist group, because I'm sorry, you don't belong here. And now that you've shown your cards and your hatred, you're unwanted here. And I hope our government does everything it can when a Republican president takes office to remove the millions upon millions of people who hate our culture and wish nothing but ill will. I hope that Israel exterminates all the Hamas brothers. Every single one. And I know that's not very Christian of me. But I watched videos and have seen footage that no one should ever see. That is not a human being enacting those crimes. Those are animals. And although we are called to be kind to animals, you do not have the same rights as humans. You are not equal to humans. As soon as you start raping, as soon as you start beheading babies and burning them alive, as soon as you keep throwing out brochures and pamphlets to your jihadist members, telling them the rules of rape and murders, you have lost all humanity in my eyes. You are not a brother and a sister. You are a dog. And a dog that bites my hand will suffer consequences. I pray the Lord hands out his justice quickly and swiftly. Thank you, my Pachos Chachos. I'm sorry for the solemn service that is this podcast, but I felt like I could remain silent no more. I pray that our society wakes up before it's too late, before another 9/11 times 1,000 happens in our country. Why wouldn't it? It's happening all over Europe. Parliament figures are being murdered on the streets because of their political views. And Joe Biden has left the door wide open with our enemy at the gate. Well, he's no longer at the gate. He is in our home. Will we fight to take it back? Will we vote wisely to take our country back? Or if it's the same old Joe and the hoe, God help us all. See you next week. Bye-bye. God bless.